Hello, Capital District. What's going on YouTube? This is Capital District Court Block, continuing on with the informational end of our videos. I'm going to be explaining what it is I say exactly when I go to court, so that people can duplicate that and have some success. So what I like to start out with is I like to go to court with an unsigned guilty plea. You're going to take your ticket or tickets or whatever it is. You're going to check the guilty box and you're just not going to sign it. We do that so that there is no talk or discussion of trial. Okay? Why in the world would anyone want to discuss trial when you're going to plead guilty and pay fines and be done with this today? Trials are long and messy and drawn out and take a lot of time and energy and money when you're just trying to pay your fine and be done with it. So that's a good way to start, and that's a good way to bring the judge back out of wherever he tries to bring you, because the things that you say might upset them, and especially if the prosecution isn't around, because it's not the judge's responsibility to answer any of these questions, really. It's the prosecution's. And if they're not around, they feel cornered. They yell at you. They threaten you. They kick you out of court. It happened to me, my second appearance at Skodak. I wish I could have recorded that one. I've been recording everything ever since, but I'll explain what happened in Skodak in a later video. So you want to go in with an unsigned guilty plea. If you have an unsigned guilty plea, there should be no discussion of trial or anything other than what you're trying to ask them of, what you're trying to ask of them, basically. So, the second thing I like to say is I like to mention something about, I used to want to mention something about the cause of nature, but they end up saying something about the fact that they can't give you legal advice. So I don't mention anything about that anymore. I just go right in and say something about wanting to establish legal intent. You say, I have an unsigned guilty plea here today, Your Honor. I'd like to plead guilty and be done with this. Just need to be clear on a few things. Just trying to establish legal intent. If you say you're trying to establish legal intent, that means, that also means the cause of nature. But it does it in a way where you're not asking for legal advice. Because legal advice has to be after legal intent has been established. If legal intent hasn't been established, how am I supposed to know how to properly proceed? So instead of asking about the cause of nature, and instead of sending them down the road of, we can't give you legal advice and things of that nature, I just come right out and say, I'm trying to establish legal intent, Your Honor. I'm trying to be clear on the cause of nature, but by saying it in the way of trying to establish legal intent. So, unsigned guilty plea, trying to establish legal intent. Then I go right into it. What form of proof of jurisdiction has been entered into evidence by the prosecution, Your Honor? Now, if the prosecution isn't present, you're kind of putting the judge on the spot. It's not his responsibility to answer that question. It's the prosecution's. The prosecutor is the one that are supposed to be entering in the proof of jurisdiction. So the only thing in the judge's arsenal that I've seen appear so far, when you ask about trying to establish legal intent and what proof has been entered in of jurisdiction, they go right into saying that the ticket that was given to you by the police officer, policy enforcer, that's the form of proof of jurisdiction. Now, if you don't object to that, then that is the form of proof of jurisdiction. That's how the record works. So they're going to say that, the officer, blah, 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 at such and such place was in the jurisdiction of our court, and that's the form of proof of jurisdiction that's been entered in by the prosecution, which is really kind of silly sounding. That means that the police are handing out the proof of jurisdiction. I mean, that's really silly sounding, especially when you understand all of this court nonsense. So if the judge says to you, the ticket is the form of proof of jurisdiction, you'd really be in your best interest to say, well, objection, Your Honor, is that the only form of proof of jurisdiction that's been entered in as proof of jurisdiction by the prosecution? Isolating it, okay? So that they can't come back later on and say, oh, well, the ticket was the form of proof of jurisdiction, and oh, well, this is the form of proof of jurisdiction. That's proof of jurisdiction. You say, is the ticket the only form of proof? Isolating it, so they can't say something else is proof of jurisdiction later on down the line. Then another thing you could say, combating the ticket as being the proof of jurisdiction, is, does the ticket satisfy the element of jurisdiction? Because there are certain elements that need to be in place in order for someone to be convicted of a crime. And a traffic ticket for a violation, even if it's for an accident, is not even close to satisfying the element of jurisdiction. So, you want to isolate the fact that they're saying that a ticket is the form of proof of jurisdiction. Object to it. Objection, Your Honor, is that the only form of proof? And have him explain where the jurisdiction is on the ticket. Could you please explain to me so I can better understand or be more clear on, where the jurisdiction is, so I know how to properly proceed. And you just have to make them look silly for whatever they're trying to say is the proof of jurisdiction on the record. And that should pretty much stop them in their tracks. I mean, the only other thing that they could do is to try to enter in a plea on your behalf. Now, if a judge tries to enter in a plea on your behalf, you have to immediately object and say, objection, Your Honor. That's practicing law from the bench, or objection, Your Honor, it's my duty or my attorney's duty to enter in a plea on my behalf. And that should stop them in their tracks right there from being able to enter in a plea. Because when they enter in a plea, that allows them to proceed forward and push you aside and kick you out of the courtroom, basically. The only other thing that I can think of is that the judge will just pretty much try to kick you out of the courtroom because they don't want to deal with you. That's what happened to me in Skodak. I went in and I started asking the judge about jurisdiction. The prosecution wasn't there. I told him he was being non-responsive by telling me the ticket was the form of proof. He got really agitated and called for a bailiff, and the bailiff told me to shut up and to be quiet, that I was talking over the judge. That's one thing that I learned not to do. You have to be respectful in court still, or you could be held in contempt. So you need to be calm and let whoever's talking talk, and then just calmly object after everyone is done speaking, so that you're not speaking over anyone and everyone has a chance to get out whatever they're trying to get out. But the only other thing they could do is try to enter in a plea on your behalf, and you can object to that and stop them in their tracks. So you're going in with the unsigned guilty plea. You're explaining that you're trying to establish legal intent, and you want to know what form of proof of jurisdiction has been entered. You want to isolate whatever form of proof it is that they're trying to say is the form of proof, and object to them trying to enter a plea on your behalf. If you can get that far, your next step is to basically ask for time to enter in motions to challenge jurisdiction. I pretty much wrote on a piece of paper for my friend Barb I'm here trying to establish legal intent. What form of proof of jurisdiction has been entered in, and I'd like time to enter in motions. I gave her that. She went up. She kept reading that until the judge finally gave her time to enter in motions. So, and entering in motions is really no big deal. There's procedures that you have to do it. You have to get some things notarized, but it's really not hard. And once you learn how to do it one time, it's super, super easy. And court's becoming more fun now. I'm actually having a good time. I go with my friends and we make a day out of it, and we have great success. It feels good. It feels good to not have to pay money, and it feels good to not be afraid every time you leave your house. I'm going to be writing letters to the policy enforcers, every single policy enforcer that's written us tickets, explaining to them what they're doing, how they're actually the ones that are causing real harm or loss. And I'm going to start working on it today, actually. And I'll keep you updated on exactly how that turns out. But if anyone tries this in court, please record it. Get a video, not a video, get an audio recorder on your phone, and just hit the record button before you go in to court, and just leave it in your pocket. Leave it in I have a shirt I wear with a breast pocket, and I just leave it in my pocket. And I was sitting in the crowd for my friend Barb, and you could pretty much still hear everything that went on. So get an audio recorder and just press record, and it doesn't take up a lot of memory. And then if anyone tries these tactics and gets time to enter in motions, they should give you a few months. Feel free to contact me. I'd be more than happy to help anyone understand how the process works and what kind of motions to enter in. And once you learn it, you could end up passing it on to other people. So, and to get a hold of me, it's Capital District Court Block 2016 at gmail.com. So that's about the end of this video. I'd like to just mention I'm thankful for my security, my sovereignty, my clarity, and my perfect health. And I hope everyone is doing well out there. I know things are going crazy in this world. There's no work. Things are hard. But this is a way to, the pen is mightier than the sword. This is a way to hit back without being violent. This is a non-violent tactic to getting somewhere and not having to have so much stress in your life. So I hope everyone can try some of these things and have the guts and the courage. And like I said, if you need help going to court, you want someone to be there with you, to encourage you, to help you, I have no problem doing that. Every time I go to court, it makes me less and less scared. So, alright, that's the end of this one. I'm going to work on some other things. Hope everyone's well. Talk to everyone soon.